morning and greetings from Ghana. So I'm presenting this project on behalf of my colleagues that I'll talk about at the end of my presentation. This project basically looks at the relationship between crime and urban cities in Ghana. That we looked at the nexus between crime, poverty, and urbanization in Ghana. In order for us to understand it very well, and as geographers, we decided to select 4 key cities in Ghana. Accra being the capital of Ghana. So we selected, we selected Accra, which is the capital city. Secondly, Takoradi is the emerging city, the oil city, that is where we have found oil. We also selected Kumasi, which is somewhere midway in the forest zone, and then Tamale, that's the savannah zone of Ghana. Just to get a broad overview of what is happening in our country. And in each city, we selected 3 neighborhoods. A high-income neighborhood, a middle-income, and then a low-income neighborhood within each city. And we sampled almost 3,000 households. We did a number of in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, and we were guided by the selection by the Ghana Statistical Service, authorities, and the urban planners, and other people. So we were guided clearly in the selection of these cities. So, and then the neighborhoods. So what did we find in our research? One of the key findings is that in many of the middle-class neighborhoods, they reported feeling more unsafe as compared to the upper and lower-class neighborhoods. And why is it that? Why is this so? Because in many of these middle-class neighborhoods, they are growing rapidly, the urban sprawl. Most of them growing outside the city. Many of these areas, they have limited or no private security. Many have limited use of what we call the target hardening measures, high walls, barbed wires, and all of those things, as compared to the middle and the lower class neighborhoods, where in the upper class neighborhoods, they have intense use of target hardening measures. They have better communication, community infrastructure, communication facilities included. Then some of them have private security. And then in the low-class neighborhoods, they don't have these private security, but they have a strong community bonding and social network. And they take care of themselves. That natural surveillance is there. And there's a presence of people at home all the time. So in many of these neighborhoods, they said the places are safer as compared to the middle-class neighborhood. But we also realized that having all these barbed wires, high gates, high security walls, and even the presence of private security, it does not prevent crime, particularly armed robbery, in the so-called high-class areas. This is a typical example of what happened in one of our major cities, Accra, where a ladder was used. And this is a big man's house. A ladder was used, and the man was murdered in cold blood in his bedroom. So it happens that, whether you have all of these things does not necessarily prevent crime, certain types of crime, particularly armed robbery. And most of the perpetrators were mostly males between 35 years and below, the youth. And they told us that increasingly female youth are also part of the armed robbery gangs between 18 to 35 years. So the youth is one of the major perpetrators of crime. But again, in the low-class neighborhoods, certain types of crimes do occur. Not armed robbery, but sexual crimes. Crimes like rape and what we call defilement, children who are sexually abused, children below 16 years who are sexually abused. It's so high in many of these low-income neighborhoods. And again, feeling of insecurity was also higher, particularly among females, and especially at night, because of this whole concept of vulnerability. And I will explain that as I continue with my story from Ghana. If you look at the Ghana police, we also use some national reports, particularly reports from the police, the Ghana Police Service. If you look at the data on the major crimes, 5 of them, you can see that robbery is one of the highest, but defilement, children who are sexually abused, is also a very high, on the police records. And this is from 2007 to 2013. It appears as if it is it's fluctuating up and down. This is the more recent one, 2014 and 2015. Defilement is still very high. It has dropped from 2014 to 2015, but robbery has increased. From 2014 to 2015, it's gone up. And these types of crime occur mainly in the middle class neighborhoods, and particularly in the outskirts, the newly developing areas, where these days you find also the high class, very beautiful buildings there. And many of these crimes also occur, the defilement occur in the low-class neighborhoods. At least that is what we got from the police. So we probe further on why the prevalence of these sexual crimes in the low-class neighborhoods, and then the feelings of insecurity. And certain factors came up, and I just want to share a few of those factors. One of the key factors that emerged is the poor infrastructure, the absence of proper lighting system, non-functional lighting. Sometimes the poles are there, but they don't work. The absence of police posts, police presence in many of these communities. In fact, in all the cities that we went, and in all the major communities that we went, there was no police presence there. The police is somewhere far away from those communities. In terms of housing, the congestion, housing occupancy, people are so many, so others tend to live outside is a major factor. The road networks are very poor. The police will tell you that they can't even drive through those communities. The presence of gangsters that occupy these public spaces in these low-class neighborhoods. A typical one is the public toilet. In many of these low-income communities, they use the public toilet facilities. And these are where the gangsters are, the drug addicts, the gangsters. And the women particularly told us that they are afraid to go there, particularly at night, evenings and at night. Otherwise, you could be sexually abused, you could be attacked, your bag could be snatched, and all of that. And then another key factor was this long bureaucratic police processes vis-a-vis the preference for monetary compensation. In fact, many of them explain that assuming your child has been abused, you have to report to the police, you have to write a statement, go there several times, and it takes so much of their time. And they give up. The police themselves told us that they give up. And so most of the time, and because most of these perpetrators are people who are well known, sometimes even fathers, uncles, brothers, and neighbors, and so they agree on some monetary compensation. And it is only when the perpetrator fails to pay that agreed sum that they tend to report to the police. But even that, sometimes they give up along the way. So based on these major findings, we ask ourselves, how can we make our city safe from our Ghanaian perspective? We believe that there should be integrated response to strengthen households' effort. The households are doing well. They put up beautiful buildings, high walls, private security, but that does not prevent crime. Armed robbery could happen. We need to strengthen the police and criminal justice system, but most importantly, we have to develop community-based approaches, because each community, each neighborhood experience certain types of crime and certain specific challenges that must be addressed. So for instance, in the high-class neighborhood, We think that there should be regular presence of the patrol of police officials, but also there is a challenge. We need to resource the police. There should be proper road networks in the newly developed areas. You see very beautiful buildings, but the road network is so poor. When you attack and you call the police, it takes so long for them to get there. And these are the risk-prone areas. We also think that government and other relevant stakeholders, particularly our traditional leaders, they should collaborate to plan for urban growth and control urban sprawl. In the low-class neighborhoods, we need to improve on the infrastructure, the lighting system, the networks. We should do better planning and design of the public spaces in these areas. Perhaps we should think of affordable housing schemes that provides toilet facilities. People must have toilets in their homes. They don't have to travel distances where they could be attacked. There should be police presence, and perhaps we should also have legal aid support for families. There should be employment opportunities for the youth. They are the major perpetrators. And not only in the rural, urban areas, but in the rural areas, because people are moving from rural to urban areas. And then, last but not the least, we need continuous education on the gender stereotypes. The whole perception of women's vulnerability is very important. And this should be done by all, the government, our traditional leaders, our religious leaders in schools, and all of that. And we think that we have come up with further research areas, the issue of sexual crimes. We want to understand it better. And then we are also looking at some of the gender dimensions of crime and safety issues in specific public places like the markets, the transport terminals, in schools. It's something that we must really look at. And then we are also thinking of crime and security issues in small and medium towns. We have looked at the large cities, but we want to look at small and medium towns, what is happening in those areas. So the project is a research team. Professor George Owusu was the project, the team principal investigator. There were others, and this is me. And we are geographers, and she is a sociologist. We also included graduate students, 3 PhDs and 4 MPhils. And we are very grateful to IDRC, David, for supporting us, and particularly to Ramata and Jennifer for supporting us in this process. And we have published several aspects of what I have presented today. This is just a summary. There are several aspects. If you go online, the details are in there. So thank you very much for your attention.